Section 26 of Pirates of Panama, The Buccaneers of America by A.O. Exquemelin. Translated by G.A. Williams. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Lars Rolander. Chapter 17, Part 1. Captain Morgan departs from Chagre at the head of 1,200 men to take the city of Panama. Captain Morgan set forth from the castle of Chagre towards Panama, August 18, 1670. He had with him 1,200 men, 5 boats laden with artillery, and 32 canoes. The first day they sailed only 6 leagues, and came to a place called De los Brachos. Here a party of his men went ashore only to sleep and stretch their limbs, being almost crippled with lying too much crowded in the boats. Having rested a while, they went abroad to seek victuals in the neighbouring plantations, but they could find none, the Spaniards being fled and carrying with them all they had. This day being the first of their journey, they had such scarcity of victuals as the greatest part were forced to pass with only a pipe of tobacco, without any other refreshment. Next day, about evening, they came to a place called Cruz de Juan Gallego. Here they were compelled to leave their boats and canoes, the river being very dry for want of rain, and many trees having fallen into it. The guides told them that about 2 leagues farther, the country would be very good to continue the journey by land. Hereupon they left 160 men on board the boats to defend them, that they might serve for a refuge in necessity. Next morning, being the 3rd day, they all went ashore, except those who were to keep the boats. To these Captain Morgan gave order, under great penalties, that no man, on any pretext whatever, should dare to leave the boats and go ashore, fearing lest they should be surprised by an ambuscade of Spaniards in the neighbouring woods, which appeared so thick as to seem almost impenetrable. This morning, beginning their march, the ways proved so bad, that Captain Morgan thought it more convenient to transport some of the men in canoes, though with great labour, to a place farther up the river, called Cedro Bueno. Thus they re-embarked, and the canoes returned for the rest, so that about night they got all together at the said place. The pirates much desired to meet some Spaniards or Indians, hoping to fill their bellies with their provisions, being reduced to extremity and hunger. The 4th day the greatest part of the pirates marched by land, being led by one of the guides; the rest went by water farther up, being conducted by another guide, who always went before them, to discover, on both sides the river, the ambuscades. These had also spies, who were very dexterous to give notice of all accidents, or of the arrival of the pirates, 6 hours at least before they came. This day, about noon, they came near a post called Tornacavallos. Here the guide of the canoes cried out that he perceived an ambuscade. His voice caused infinite joy to all the pirates, hoping to find some provisions to satiate their extreme hunger. Being come to the place, they found nobody in it, the Spaniards being fled, and leaving nothing behind but a few leathern bags, all empty, and a few crumbs of bread scattered on the ground where they had eaten. Being angry at this, they pulled down a few little huts which the Spaniards had made, and fell to eating the leathern bags, to allay the ferment of their stomachs, which was now so sharp as to gnaw their very bowels. Thus they made a huge banquet upon these bags of leather, divers quarrels arising concerning the greatest shares. By the bigness of the place, they conjectured about 500 Spaniards had been there, whom, finding no victuals, they were now infinitely desirous to meet, intending to devour some of them rather than perish. Having feasted themselves with those pieces of leather, they marched on till they came about night to another post called Torna Munni. Here they found another ambuscade, but as barren as the former. They searched the neighbouring woods, but could not find anything to eat, the Spaniards having been so provident as not to leave anywhere the least crumb of sustenance, whereby the pirates were now brought to this extremity. Here again he was happy that had reserved since noon any bit of leather to make his supper of, drinking after it a good draught of water for his comfort. Some, who never were out of their mothers' kitchens, may ask how these pirates could eat and digest those pieces of leather so hard and dry. Whom I answer, that could they once experiment what hunger, or rather famine is, they would find the way as the pirates did. For these first sliced it in pieces, then they beat it between two stones, and rubbed it, often dipping it in water, to make it supple and tender. Lastly, they scraped off the hair and broiled it. Being thus cooked, they cut it into small morsels and ate it, helping it down with frequent gulps of water, which by good fortune they had at hand. The fifth day, about noon, they came to a place called Barbacoa. Here they found traces of another ambuscade, but the place totally as unprovided as the former. At a small distance were several plantations, which they searched very narrowly, but could not find any person, animal, or other thing to relieve their extreme hunger. Finally, having ranged about and searched a long time, they found a grot, which seemed to be but lately hewn out of a rock, where were two sacks of meal, wheat, and like things, with two great jars of wine, and certain fruits called platanos. Captain Morgan, knowing some of his men were now almost dead with hunger, and fearing the same of the rest, caused what was found to be distributed among them who were in greatest necessity. Having refreshed themselves with these victuals, they marched anew with greater courage than ever. Such as were weak were put into the canoes, and those commanded to land that were in them before. Thus they prosecuted their journey till late at night, when coming to a plantation, they took up their rest, but without eating anything, for the Spaniards, as before, had swept away all manner of provisions. The sixth day they continued their march, part by land and part by water. Howbeit they were constrained to rest very frequently, both for the ruggedness of the way and their extreme weakness, which they endeavoured to relieve by eating leaves of trees and green herbs, or grass, such was their miserable condition. This day at noon they arrived at a plantation, where was a barn full of maize. Immediately they beat down the doors and ate it dry, as much as they could devour. Then they distributed a great quantity, giving every man a good allowance. Thus provided, and prosecuting their journey for about an hour, they came to another ambuscade. This they no sooner discovered, but they threw away their maize with the sudden hopes of finding all things in abundance. But they were much deceived, meeting neither Indians nor victuals nor anything else, but they saw on the other side of the river about 100 Indians, who, all fleeing, escaped. Some few pirates leaped into the river to cross it and try to take any of the Indians, but in vain, for being much more nimble than the pirates, they not only baffled them, but killed two or three with their arrows, hooting at them and crying, "Ah, perros a la sabana, a la sabana!" Ha, ye dogs, go to the plain, go to the plain! This day they could advance no farther, being necessitated to pass the river, to continue their march on the other side. Hereupon they reposed for that night, though their sleep was not profound, for great murmurings were made at Captain Morgan,